Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first and official Scouse Sport podcast. We are a new news group here in Liverpool, aiming to cover as many sports as possible and any sports news stories of interest in the Merseyside region. I am one of the sports reporters and your host today. My name is Jack, and I'm going to introduce you to my team.
Hi, I'm Ahmad Udwell, 19 from Wolverhampton.
Hi, I'm Callum, 19 from Bristol.
Hi, I'm George. I am 19 from Wallasey.
Hello, I'm James Chettle, 27 from London.
Hi, I'm Sally Rasput, 22 from Belgium.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm 20 from Blackburn.
So now that you're familiar with everyone, I want to get us started, guys, by talking about, well, what didn't happen on the weekend here in Liverpool. Obviously, the big story being the 240th Merseyside Derby, which was eventually called off due to the wind.
Shame that one.
Yes. Crazy, innit? Like Liverpool Everton, you think December, nothing much on it, but now the rescheduled game, it might happen in April now, under the lights. It'll be an evening game. It'll be a tough game for Liverpool now. And like that's football, isn't it? It has to have a story to it on their final game at Goodison Park.
Well, I mean, the big thing for me is I'd say the conditions were actually favourable for Everton. Of course, they're in bad form at the minute, so you think not having to play the biggest rivals or top of the league would be great. But Liverpool were missing a few key players, and Sean Dyche football in wind like that, I was expecting Pickford to stick one in from his own goal.
I do think it was probably the right decision to call it off. Like it was a bad storm and it wouldn't have been safe to play. But like Jack was saying, it would have been Everton's best chance at playing them because Liverpool were missing some key players. So I think as Everton fans, you will be a bit gutted. But then it's just how you fit it into both of their busy schedules. They have got a lot of fixtures coming up and the schedule and fixture list are tight as it is, but hopefully they can get it played at some point and give that farewell to Goodison.
And if you bring it back to last season, when Liverpool were also on a title charge, we played Everton in April again, and they lost 2-0, which proper put a spanner in their work. So maybe it's just history rewriting itself.
I think the only benefit that a lot of Everton fans will feel is, I know Amar said they're thinking about April. I've heard rumours of early January, which would mean the last derby at Goodison Park will be under the lights. And I couldn't think of a more fitting way to send off a ground in such an iconic fixture.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the
For
thing though.
Liverpool, though,
Go on, Cal.
for Liverpool, I think it benefits them in some way. It's a nice break, obviously around Christmas, it's a busy like schedule. There's games every couple of days. So although obviously they're now going to have a game in hand next, like later in the year, it's good just to have a break. Get the key players back, back in training, back in the team, and move on to the next games.
Right, so I'm going to move it on, and I'd like to go to Zoe because I know you've had something interesting in the background that you've been working on.
Yeah, so I did a story on that I was really impressed with and really inspired by was the Liverpool Trojans. They are a baseball team in Liverpool and they're actually the oldest team in the UK. And something that they started a couple of years ago now was offering opportunities for blind people. So on a Sunday, they do a morning training session with people that are visually impaired and they play baseball basically. Obviously, it's a little bit different. There's a bell in the ball so that they can hear where the ball is on the pitch, and there's no picture. They just have it in their hand and they hit it with the bat. But it's just really inspiring that there are opportunities out there for people that have these are in these situations, are visually impaired or have some sort of disability. So it was really inspiring, really. Someone that I spoke to said that they actually thought becoming blind was one of the best things that had ever happened to them because they've just been opened up to all these other opportunities that they didn't have before. and they've helped sort of guide the way for other people who are blind to get involved with sport. So yeah, just a really heartwarming story that I think is what's so amazing about the Merseyside region. There are these chances for people that wouldn't usually to get involved in sport. And I think we've all found that really with doing our reports and our stories, we've learned that it isn't just about Liverpool and Everton, although they're the two Premier League clubs in the city. There's a lot of other sport going on and a lot of other stories that are out there that need to be told.
So how does that work? Do they have fielders?
Yeah, so they have like the ball in the hand and then their bat and they just like hit it themselves. But then in a fielding respect, they just go off hearing.
And do
So
they
the
still have
guy
to
that I
run around
spoke
the
to,
bases?
yeah, so again, that's done off sound. There's a beeper on the first base. So obviously it gets louder, you know, you're close, and there is someone there to stop you from sort of running too far. Um, but yeah, and they said this guy that I spoke to called Ray, he actually plays for Great Britain for visually impaired baseball. He said that fielding, just imagine like someone's dropped a tenner in a nightclub and everyone's sort of crawling around on the floor trying to grab it, and that is what it's like. And I did stay and watch a bit of the training, and it was like that. They're all on the floor crawling around, just trying to listen out for the bell. So yeah, really heartwarming story, and it's great that they've got that sense of humour as well. They did say like we're just a group that get together every week and we have a laugh, even with the situation that we're in.
Zoe, I was wondering, I don't know if you asked this, but like, what about spectators? How do they deal with people on the side being making noise then?
Yeah, I didn't specifically ask about the noise side, but I assume they'll just kind of stay quiet while there's a, game in hand, game in play sort of thing. But yeah, they also said so the blind group go down and watch sort of the first team and vice versa. The first team will go down and watch the blind teams kind of all support each other. So just a really lovely community that they've built, and it is opening doors to people that otherwise could feel isolated.
Well, it definitely sounds like an interesting story. And if you want to be reading more into it, if you go to scousesport.wordpress.com, that story is live for you to have a look. I'm going to shift it on again. This time I'm going to go to Sally and James because I know you've had quite a mammoth challenge on your hands with a big story that you've been putting together.
Yeah. So essentially, I've done a deep dive with Sally into the ACL epidemic in women's football specifically, because within women are like 2 to 8 times more likely to suffer the injury compared to men, and in like all professions or levels of football, I should say, it's increasing. It's like every other week now there's an ACL injury. So we took a deeper dive into it on how far it actually goes down and how like women's hormonal fluctuations and the match scheduling is increasing the likelihood of it. So, and then there's also a major lack of funding into like the resources, the training compared to the men's side, you get like so much more investment and opportunities into research with sports science and things like that. So I interviewed one player who plays for Burnley now, and another plays for Liverpool Feds, who are in the third tier of women's football. And Sally did one with who plays for the women's uni team and also back home, I believe, as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting to learn more about this because women's football isn't really big in Belgium. It's coming up, it's becoming more popular, but I feel here it's also not as big as people would like it to be, but it's like more established already. And yeah, to me, women's sport is like a big passion of mine. So it was really interesting to work on this. And the girl I interviewed, she tore the inner part of her ACL when she was 16, and it took her about 8 months to recover. And she's a center back, so she obviously like there's a physical side which you have to recover for like days, hours a day. But also the mental side was pretty hard to recover for her because obviously going into a tackle, you start thinking about like, oh, am I gonna injure it again? And she told me that only since a year ago she felt like she really got back into the game, and by that point she was 22, so that was like 6 years later. But the most interesting part of this interview, I think, is what she told me about women's sport in general, women's football. The fact that women are more prone to ACL injuries, but that doesn't mean they want special treatment because they've been fighting to play the same rules and the same football as men's. So they don't want the rules to be changed basically to make up for that injury risk. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to me.
So how did this story come about? Did you get in contact with someone, or
Yeah,
did
yeah.
someone get in contact with you?
No, I already knew some people who had suffered the injury, so I thought it was a perfect angle because it doesn't get much coverage compared to like the men's side get a lot of mainstream coverage on it. So we went and interviewed the people because they're more than happy to do it. And like it shouldn't be underestimated, like the impact mentally on what the injuries can happen, how it copes, because there's one of the girls is relies on it as a full-time job. So getting injured for that, like what she's been out like 6 months, literally basically she's losing income, so she's having to get another job alongside uni. It's just so overwhelming. So yeah, it was very interesting actually to hear not just like the side of the injury side, more the outside football side of it.
No, definitely. It's something I wasn't aware of, but definitely something I'll be reading into. George with a little clap there. You're the man who I'm actually going to move on to next, George. You have wanted to talk about something that I have quite an interest in, but I'm sure many others do, on the lines of Darren Till.
Yeah, as you know, Darren Till has swapped his MMA gloves for the world of celebrity boxing on what the KSI's own brand Misfits, which is basically just a guaranteed paycheck, in my opinion. Like, it's not a credible fight at all against Tommy Fury. Well, which was meant to be against Tommy Fury. As I'm sure you all saw in the press conference, that it's been cancelled because Darren Till was saying if he's losing to a boxer, he's just going to kick him in the head. So, controversially, Tommy Fury has pulled out saying, well, he doesn't want to make an injury, but over social media, people are saying maybe Tommy Fury's just trying to find a way out. Because I know Darren Till's got older, but when he was younger, he was a title contender for the UFC. So I was just wondering what people think. Do you reckon Tommy Fury's clever for pulling out, or do you reckon Darren Till was just using mind games in the press conference? Because Twitter and other social medias are definitely divided.
I think the pressure has somewhat got to Tommy a bit there. You know, he fought. I mean, he beat KSI and Jake Paul, but now he's actually got to fight someone that's been in the UFC. I think he's getting a bit nervous. He just wants an easy fight for an easy paycheck.
Well, I mean, there was all what's his name? Dylan Dennis fought with Logan, isn't he? And same kind of things got said that he was just going to take him down and all that. And I know he tried to in the end, but it took until round 6 when he'd not thrown a punch for the entire fight. But I know personally, having watched Darren Till when he was younger, if I was in the ring with that man, I do not want to face a head kick from him.
But in the press conference, Darren Till, and I don't know if this is just his Scouse ego, you could say, taking over. He said, if I do kick him in the head, then you're allowed to take all my purse away, disqualify me. I think he's just using mind games, because if he's been out the UFC for that long, he's not getting any sort of like income really. I don't know what he's doing behind the scenes, but it doesn't look like much on social media. So I don't think he's going to sacrifice a multi-million-pound deal just to kick someone in the head for a bit of YouTube views. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're totally right. He said the other week, didn't he, in an interview, that he's broke. So this money could be well needed for someone who probably lives a very lavish lifestyle.
Yeah, very much so.
Do you know if they're gonna find a replacement for Till, or is the fight completely off now? They're just gonna take it off the card. And
to be fair, I mean, you've got to remember, it's what, 4 weeks away from the fight they're meant to have, Till's basically had a full training camp. Like he's probably still raring to go, but if he's making claims like that and Tommy Fury's pulled out, do you reckon any credible boxer is going to follow
Give
suit?
me Conor McGregor in the ring. Get
I'm
that
sure
man.
Tommy's definitely going to find a box you've never heard of, low
Yeah.
quality. He'll find someone.
Yeah, because Darren Till's probably the most credible fight he
Yeah.
would have had up to that point, because all he's fought is journeyman, but
Yeah.
a title contender in the UFC only about 6 years ago. I mean, a lot can change in that, but he's he's not going to lose it.
No, definitely. And he was very good when he was spending his time in the UFC. Yeah. Now, I'm going to move on to what has become a little bit like our resident football reporter for our website, and that is Amar.
Yeah, I went to the Timber Football Centre last Wednesday and I watched a couple of games, the sixes and seconds. So the sixes played Wrexham's firsts and they absolutely demolished them 8-1. Like it's straight away you knew the quality difference. For some reason, Wrexham were playing this high line, thinking they're Liverpool, trying to catch them always offside, and it's never worked. Every time, Taka's getting in behind. And there's a bit of aggro on the bench. One of the fans was unhappy with the subs, kept calling offside, and the manager says, "Guys, you can't just keep cheating, not playing by the rules, trying to play the ref." And then, as soon as that happened, never got called for offside again. And then it was that much of a battering. Towards the end, the player manager, Will Adlard for John Moores, came on. He missed an open goal. He tried to flick it on, and then a couple of minutes later, in the last minute, left foot strikes in the bottom corner, does the Jimmy Bullard. All the lads run over from the bench, sit some more down. It's brilliant. A bit embarrassing for Wrexham for their first team. Apparently, their best player was missing. And then a few hours later, the seconds beat University Academy 92 first, which I thought they had been a better team because don't know. I just thought Class 92 founded this uni might be a good football team. But it was a great game, 5-4. Bit of controversy though, because Paul Neefer got hat-trick, John Moore striker. But last couple minutes, he's just been tripped over outside the box, and then the refs played advantage. They've got their shot away, and then the refs just pulled it back. And I'm thinking, there was lots of aggro from the bench. Like, as soon as you've played advantage, you got the shot off. That's it then. Advantage has been played. And then their manager saying, ref, I want to chat with you after you've had a discussion. So they've played the free kick, shot's gone in, bounced in front of the goalie, and then John Moore striker Paul Neefus has tapped in the rebound last minute. Then with 2 minutes to go, studs are flying over the top. Lots of for scrapping, fighting. But then John Moore's just see the game out and they've extended the lead at the top of the table, 5-4. Just brilliant game. Like top football, especially their third goal. Cameron McAvoy and Jack Hanna on the right side, like interchanging in the middle, and then he sprayed it out wide. He cut it back for Paul Neefer. He just swiveled, bent in the top corner. It's like watching Brazil from the bench. So
What
good day.
was what was the atmosphere like amongst the twos? Because I know I went to watch them a few weeks ago in Newcastle, and they took a heavy 7-0
Yeah.
loss.
What's that, the seconds?
Yeah.
Second, it was good. It was really competitive. They bounced back brilliantly. I thought they played good football. At times, sloppy because the University Academy striker was brilliant. It was basically one-man team, I thought. But they kept themselves together, they were disciplined, and they had a good structure to them.
So, Amar, you said they extended their league at the top of the table. Do you know how many games are left of this university season?
We're halfway through the season, so
Halfway
yeah,
through the season, so there's still a bit of a
steady.
yeah,
A long way
still
to go.
a long
But
way
they've
to
made a
go.
very good start, yeah.
Brilliant.
How big's the gap at the top?
I think it's like 8 points.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Not last and not least, but Callum, I'm going to touch on a story you've been working on. One that not many people have offered to have any interest in, and that is basketball, if I believe.
Yeah. So it's a sport that I'm interested in personally myself. So I immediately took interest in it when I saw the uni. The uni has a team. They have quite a few teams. Three. Um, so I thought I'd go and cover their games, see if I can give the sport a bit more exposure. It's not that big in this country. Um, but it's really good, when you go down to the sport building, there's always a great atmosphere. I've got to fight my way along the side to get a good view so I can actually make my notes or up in the viewing gallery. But the quality of basketball that's played there, especially in the first team, is really good. I've seen, 1 point wins right at the end. The last game I went and covered against University of Central Lancashire was a 30-point blowout victory. So I've seen the full scale of wins with this team. They're unbeaten at home. They haven't lost at home. And yeah, it's just really fun.
So I know I've been looking on the JMU basketball Instagram. It looks incredibly professional, and this is less about the sports side, but more the media. Like some of the mixtapes they're making and montages, it's like something you'd see in the professional game.
Yeah, yeah, they've partnered up with sort of a photographer, videographer that's also there normally on the sidelines. Um, and yeah, their media presence is really good. Um, they're always quick to release the team sheets and the final scores, obviously as well. But I think it just helps raise the exposure a bit more when they're sort of advertising the teams in that professional manner. It encourages people to come down and have a look.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said when you go to the games, you're literally fighting for a good spot. So the exposure on social media must be working, because obviously it's not as big in the UK. But if there's loads of people going to have a look and get stuck in, then it's great news for the growth of basketball.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The sideline is always full of, um, obviously you've got the members of the other teams. If the first are playing, the second and the third teams will be there.
Yeah.
Maybe even the women's team as well. I know.
Well, that's something I wanted to
I
touch
I
on. Well,
happened.
sorry to cut you off, but on that topic, I was at a women's game a few weeks ago, and it was packed in there full of the men. So it's nice to see how
Yeah,
both sides of the game come together to support each other.
yeah, yeah. I think they.
I've
I think. Go on.
I've covered a couple of games with netball, and it's the same with like the netball and the football team. Like each other will go and watch their games, and I just think it's really nice that everyone has that sort of connection to sport in general rather than just what they play. A question I was going to ask about the basketball as well, though, was like, what are their hopes and aspirations for the season? Does it go into like playoffs? If so, are they hoping to get there to the final? That kind of thing. What is their dream for the rest of the season? Because obviously they are unbeaten at home.
Yeah. So at the start of the year, I spoke to sort of. He's the third team captain, but he's the head of like the group as a whole, if that makes sense.
Like president
So I
essentially.
spoke to him, and he wants to see an improvement on last year. They got relegated, unfortunately, last year, but this year it seems that they've bounced back. Unbeaten at home, as I said. But it's more importantly, I think he emphasised how he wants to see sort of more team unity and chemistry. Um, he felt that last year they were a little bit disjointed. So at the start of the year, they focused very much on the team building, team bonding side of things. But I know you asked about, does it go into a playoff? It's more of just like your standard league, sort of as you would see, in football and things like that, where there's a relegation, and if you're first, you're the champions.
Would you say basketball's a rising sport in Liverpool now?
I'd say so, definitely. Obviously, you got the uni teams, both LJMU and Uni of have multiple teams. There's a team called Toxteth Elites that I know some of the uni lads play for as well. Um, and yeah, definitely it is growing.
I was wondering, do you know where in the league they're standing right now? The first team?
Yeah, so they're not top. but they're in and amongst it. I think last time I looked, they were fourth, only four points off of top. So they're definitely competing.
And again, if you want to keep up with that and any other sports around the Merseyside region, you can find it on our Instagram, Scouse Sport _. Now, I'd like to close out this podcast by talking about a very significant event that's coming up, which a lot of people in the Merseyside region, especially as of recently, have grown affection towards, and that is the Darts World Championship. Of course, we have got a very large number of names, big names from in and around Liverpool. Obviously, you've got your Luke Littler, everyone's heard of. He's the favourite. You've got Dave Chisnell's from St Helens, Michael Smith from St Helens, the famous St Helens Dart Shop and Academy. Just like to get everyone's thoughts. How do you think the Wales is going to go?
Let's go Bunting mental.
Stephen Bunting, how could I forget?
It was a highlight of the year for me, darts. It's exciting.
Well, I feel like
it's an exciting competition.
Yeah, I feel like now people see darts as more of a social event, just to get with their mates, have a few drinks, watch the sport, and just have a good day out. Like I don't think many people usually go just to watch the darts. I know there's a few diehard darts fans out there, but I'd say 50% of people who go to the darts are just there for a laugh with their mates.
Yeah, not many watch the darts. They probably couldn't even tell you who's playing.
It's not like going to any other sports, is it? You can't actually see them playing darts because they're so far away. But no, I do agree. One thing as well that I do really like about the World Championship, and it's totally different to like your World Cup and other stuff like that. It's at Christmas.
Yeah.
And I just think it's brilliant the time of year that it's at. I think it works so well. You get everyone dressing up for Christmas at the Ali Pali. I just think it's great.
I've never been. It's not really a big thing in Belgium. Do you guys think it's worth going to?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Belgium might win this year, Mike De Decker. He won the Grand Prix.
Yeah. Good point, Amor.
Yeah, we have a pretty famous Belgian darts player, I think. Like his name is Dancing Dimmy, or like his
Dimitri van den Berg, yeah. He done quite well a few seasons ago. But no,
I feel like the competition coming up as well, it's that chance where there are so many upcoming players. Like a couple of years ago, there was like Sharon Fallock, where she was the first woman to play, and you just never really see anything like that. And then last year with Luke Littler, like it really brings out new players. So yeah.
She wins the first round. She faces Luke Littler in the second.
Yeah.
Be a good game.
Shalom Ferrick, the queen of the Ali Pali. Now,
Do you see anyone breaking through like Luke Littler did last year?
Yeah, well, there's that young lad who won the Youth World Championship a few weeks ago, and then he was either the quarters or the semi-finals of the Grand Prix, Van Veen. He looks a hell of a player, and of course, some people reckon he's better than Littler, which I think is a bit of a stretch, but
he's Dutch, so he's got a good chance, hasn't he? Got some heroes to look up to.
Dutch genes.
Sally, there's nothing better around Christmas time than sitting there on the early nights with your family and watching the darts all day.
Really? Because I don't know the rules, so I don't know if it's
You don't need to know the rules. It's just it's more
if you hear the commentator shout 180, you go mental. That's all you need. I think that would be a good place to wrap it up. We've discussed a lot today. And again, if you want to keep in track or keep in touch with all that stuff, at Scouse Sport on Twitter, scousesport.wordpress.com on the internet, or scousesport _ on Instagram are our socials. And I'm going to draw the line there, guys. It's been great doing this podcast with you all. It's been a pleasure to be your host. Thank you to everyone who's going to be listening. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
All right, cheers, guys.